Ladies and gentlemen, today we stand at a crossroads, not just of technology or politics, but of human destiny itself. In a world woven tighter by innovation and connection, the stories we tell about talent, opportunity, and leadership reveal much deeper truths about who we are and where we're going. This isn't just a tale of business or borders. It's a story about courage, vision, and the unseen forces that shape our future. So, I invite you to open your minds and hearts as we explore why some fear what they don't fully understand, and why embracing that fear can lead us to a greater awakening. The H-1B visa program is a critical tool used by technology companies in the United States to bring in skilled foreign workers, especially in fields like software engineering, data science, and artificial intelligence. Among the largest group of recipients are Indian nationals, who consistently account for over 70% of the total H-1B visas issued annually. This is not a coincidence. It's a reflection of India's deep-rooted presence in the global tech talent pool. Companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta rely on this program not just to fill roles, but to stay globally competitive. The American education system does not produce enough STEM graduates to meet the demand in Silicon Valley, and Indian engineers, with their rigorous training and English fluency, have become the go-to solution. They work in roles that are mission-critical, building infrastructure, coding platforms, maintaining security systems, and pushing innovation in AI and machine learning. Many Indian professionals enter the U.S. on these visas and then transition into permanent roles, moving up the ladder. Over time, they shape the very architecture of big tech's future. This has created a kind of pipeline from India to Silicon Valley, a brain chain that links two of the most powerful tech ecosystems on Earth. This dependency, however, creates a point of political tension. The fact that U.S. tech supremacy leans heavily on foreign talent goes against the narrative of American self-reliance that some politicians push. When Trump targeted the H-1B program during his administration, it wasn't just about jobs. It was about control. The very foundation of American innovation is intertwined with Indian talent, and that makes the program a strategic target. Not because it's broken, but because it works too well for everyone except those trying to keep borders, ideas, and influence tightly contained. In the tech corridors of Silicon Valley and beyond, Indian professionals have become an undeniable force. From entry-level coders to high-ranking engineers and product managers, their presence is deeply embedded in the U.S. tech ecosystem. This isn't a recent phenomenon. It began decades ago when Indian engineers started migrating to the United States in large numbers, often graduating from elite institutions like the Indian Institutes of Technology, before pursuing advanced degrees in the U.S. Once here, they didn't just fill jobs, they excelled. Indian engineers are known for their strong technical foundation, problem-solving skills, and adaptability in high-pressure environments. Over time, they earned reputations not just as competent workers, but as innovators, builders, and leaders. Many of them hold patents, lead product launches, and manage global teams for some of the most powerful companies in the world. Their influence stretches across major tech sectors: cloud computing, AI, cybersecurity, enterprise software, and mobile technology. Whether it's the algorithm behind a search engine or the architecture of a cloud server, chances are Indian hands helped shape it. The pipeline of Indian talent has grown so strong that companies actively recruit from India's top institutions, sometimes setting up direct partnerships or innovation hubs in cities like Bengaluru, Hyderabad, and Pune. Inside American tech companies, Indian talent often drives the pace and direction of development. They are not just employees, they are knowledge centers within the organization. Their dominance doesn't only reflect numbers, it reflects impact. Indian professionals often mentor teams, write foundational code, and are instrumental in turning abstract ideas into billion-dollar platforms. Their presence has become so integral that removing them from the equation would disrupt operations and innovation cycles. The level of influence Indian talent holds today is both deeply embedded and widely acknowledged across the tech industry. The rise of Indian-born CEO at the helm of global tech giants is one of the most striking shifts in modern corporate leadership. Names like Sundar Pichai at Google and Satya Nadella at Microsoft are not just figureheads. They are the strategic minds steering two of the most powerful companies in the world. This leadership trend is not limited to just these two. Arvind Krishna leads IBM, Shantanu Narayan runs Adobe, and many others hold top executive roles across Silicon Valley. What makes this phenomenon significant is that these leaders are not just maintaining what was already built. They are redefining the direction of technology. Under Nadella, Microsoft transitioned from a legacy software company into a cloud-first, AI-driven powerhouse. Pichai has overseen Google's expansion beyond search into artificial intelligence, hardware, and global infrastructure. These aren't small adjustments. They are transformations that shape the daily lives of billions of people. These Indian-born leaders bring with them a global mindset. Most of them were educated in India, trained in the United States, and now lead multinational teams across time zones and continents. Their leadership style tends to emphasize collaboration, long-term vision, and adaptability, traits essential for companies operating at global scale in volatile environments. Their ascent to power also represents something deeper, a redistribution of influence. These companies are often the real centers of power in the modern world, more influential than governments when it comes to shaping communication, commerce, and information. When Indian origin leaders sit at the top of those structures, it symbolizes a shift in who gets to define the future of technology. This leadership isn't symbolic. It's operational, strategic, and deeply embedded in the everyday functioning of trillion-dollar tech empires. The fact that Indian-born professionals are leading this charge is a reflection of long-term positioning, competence, and global relevance. Donald Trump's political rise has been closely tied to a strong anti-globalization message. His America First doctrine emphasizes national self-reliance, domestic job protection, and the rejection of international economic interdependence. In that framework, global competition isn't seen as a healthy force. It's framed as a threat to American identity and prosperity. This perspective directly clashes with the globalized structure of the tech industry, where talent flows across borders, innovation is borderless, and collaboration often happens in real time across continents. Indian professionals in particular become symbolic within this tension. They are highly visible in the U.S. tech sector, particularly in Silicon Valley. They represent a form of global mobility that stands in contrast to Trump's push for tightened immigration, border control, and domestic prioritization. Their success in the U.S. tech landscape highlights the very global exchange of knowledge and talent that his narrative seeks to constrain. To Trump's political base, Indian engineers and tech leaders can be portrayed not as contributors to American innovation, but as representatives of a system that displaces local workers and outsources American advantage. The reality is more complex, but the rhetoric is built around fear and perceived loss. It's a narrative that ignores how innovation often depends on diverse perspectives, international collaboration, and specialized global talent. This anti-globalization stance is more than policy. It's part of a cultural war narrative. It resists the idea that leadership, intelligence, and capability can come from outside traditional American channels. And when Indian professionals rise to key positions, lead technological revolutions, or staff core engineering teams, it challenges the core of that ideology. It blurs the boundaries of who gets to be considered a builder of America's future, and undermines the notion that innovation must only come from within its borders. Donald Trump's political strength lies heavily in his ability to connect with a base that feels economically sidelined and culturally displaced. Many of his supporters are blue-collar workers from manufacturing towns, rural communities, and regions that have seen jobs vanish due to automation, outsourcing, and changing economic tides. In this climate of frustration, foreign professionals, especially those in high-paying, high-skilled jobs, become easy targets. Indian tech workers represent a group that is highly visible in industries perceived as elite, globalized, and increasingly distant from the everyday American worker. These professionals are not just working in tech. They are excelling in it. They're moving into leadership, influencing company decisions, and living the American dream in ways that contrast with the economic stagnation many Trump supporters feel in their own lives. This creates a psychological disconnect. The perception that success is being redistributed away from real Americans and toward a foreign-born professional class. The H-1B visa program becomes a focal point of that resentment. Though designed to fill skill shortages, it is often portrayed in political rhetoric as a loophole that allows companies to bypass American workers. Trump used this perception to great effect, framing foreign talent as part of a system that takes rather than contributes. This plays directly into a protectionist mindset, one that demands the government prioritize citizens over foreign workers in every economic decision. When Indian professionals are highlighted in media as running companies, writing code, and shaping platforms, that visibility can stir up both admiration and resentment. For Trump's base, it reinforces a belief that global elites and corporate interests are looking out for everyone except them. That emotional narrative fuels political decisions, often leading to broad policies that limit immigration, reduce visa issuance, and create friction with the very industries that depend on international talent to remain competitive. For decades, India has been at the center of the global outsourcing industry. American companies, especially in tech, finance, and customer service, have relied on Indian firms and professionals to handle everything from software development to IT support to back-office operations. This long-standing relationship has transformed cities like Bengaluru and Hyderabad into global tech hubs, often referred to as the Silicon Valley of India. At the core of this system is a simple equation. India offers a massive pool of highly skilled English-speaking talent at a fraction of the cost of American labor. This outsourcing model helped U.S. companies scale quickly and cut costs, but it also fueled a wave of political backlash. To many American workers, outsourcing became synonymous with job loss. Factories closed, call centers moved overseas, and even software engineering roles began migrating to India. It wasn't just blue-collar work being affected. White-collar, high-tech jobs were now part of the global shuffle. Trump tapped into that resentment. His rhetoric around bringing jobs back to America often pointed directly at countries like India, not with hostility toward the people, but as a critique of a system that he claimed weakened American sovereignty. He presented outsourcing as evidence that the global economy favors corporations over citizens, and he promised to reverse that trend through tariffs, visa restrictions, and incentives to keep jobs on U.S. soil. Indian professionals and companies, because of their deep involvement in outsourcing, became closely associated with that narrative. Even though outsourcing is a business decision made by American executives, it is the Indian worker who often becomes the face of that decision in the public imagination. That symbolic role has real-world consequences, especially when policies are shaped more by perception and political pressure than by economic reality or long-term industry needs. Digital world, data is power. It drives everything from targeted advertising and algorithmic recommendations to national security and global finance. The companies that collect, store, and analyze data hold immense influence, not just in the marketplace, but over society itself. This makes the people who design, manage, and secure those data systems critical players in the modern power structure. Increasingly, many of those key roles are held by Indian engineers, data scientists, and cybersecurity experts working at top U.S. tech firms. Indian professionals are often behind the code that governs cloud platforms, AI models, payment systems, and even military-grade encryption solutions. These individuals are not just coders. They are architects of systems that handle the personal information of billions of users around the world. Their work impacts government operations, healthcare systems, law enforcement databases, and corporate decision-making. With that level of involvement, they sit close to the nerve center of digital infrastructure. From a political standpoint, this raises complex questions about control, trust, and sovereignty. For someone like Trump, who champions nationalistic values and centralized power, the idea that foreign-born engineers could have access to sensitive systems and proprietary algorithms can be perceived as a threat. Even if they are American residents or citizens, their presence challenges the narrative of exclusive national control over key technologies. This concern becomes even more pronounced in the context of geopolitical competition, cyber threats, and concerns about espionage. While Indian professionals are not the focus of security concerns in the same way as other groups, their dominance in tech positions puts them under indirect scrutiny. It feeds a broader suspicion about globalization, especially when the flow of influence, information, and innovation no longer stays confined within national borders. The reality of global tech leadership often clashes with the desire for digital sovereignty and domestic control. As technology becomes more deeply embedded in every aspect of society, the companies that drive innovation are no longer just private enterprises. They are power centers shaping public discourse, economic policy, and even national security. Indian-led firms and professionals play a central role in this shift, not only through engineering and product development, but through public engagement, lobbying, and policy resistance. This influence puts them at odds with politicians who seek to regulate or control these forces for their own agendas. When leaders like Sundar Pichai or Satya Nadella speak out on immigration, privacy, AI ethics, or misinformation, their words carry weight. These are not just CEOs. They are global voices representing companies that touch nearly every part of modern life. Their stance on issues such as H-1B visas, user data rights, and algorithmic transparency directly challenges restrictive policies promoted by figures like Donald Trump. It becomes a battle between global innovation and domestic regulation, between open systems and closed borders. Indian professionals within these companies also help shape the internal culture that influences corporate responses to political development. Whether it's resisting travel bans, supporting diversity initiatives, or pushing for open source policies, the values they bring into the workplace often contrast with nationalist ideologies. Many are first-generation immigrants who understand the importance of opportunity, access, and fairness, principles that run counter to exclusionary politics. This creates tension when big tech pushes back against populist agendas and when many of the decision makers and thought leaders within that space are of Indian origin. It adds another layer to the political narrative. The influence is not just technical, it is ideological. And for leaders who depend on tightly controlled messaging and policy loyalty, the independent power of globally minded Indian-led tech firms represents a growing and increasingly visible challenge to their authority. In politics, perception is often more powerful than reality. For someone like Donald Trump, whose political brand thrives on spectacle and populist messaging, the visual and symbolic elements of his platform are crucial. Positioning himself as a defender of the forgotten American worker, he often frames tech companies as elitist, globalist entities that are out of touch with everyday citizens. When many of these companies are led or heavily staffed by Indian professionals, they become easy stand-ins for a narrative that pits the global elite against the local voter. To Trump's electoral base, tech firms are not seen as job creators or innovators. They are viewed as monopolistic, liberal, and foreign-leaning. They are accused of silencing conservative voices, exporting jobs, and hoarding wealth. Highlighting their reliance on foreign-born talent, particularly from India, reinforces a broader message that American workers are being overlooked in favor of cheaper, overseas alternatives. This message plays well in regions where manufacturing jobs have vanished, wages have stagnated, and resentment toward globalization runs deep. Issuing warnings to companies like Google and Microsoft isn't just about policy, It's about crafting an image. It sends a signal to voters that Trump is willing to take on powerful institutions and demand accountability. Targeting Indian-dominated sectors within those companies adds another layer to the message, suggesting he's fighting to protect American jobs from foreign encroachment. Even when the accusations are vague or unsubstantiated, the electoral optics are effective. A confrontational stance toward big tech, framed as a defense of American values and workers, plays well on campaign stages and in social media soundbites. The visible success of Indian professionals within these companies becomes part of the backdrop for a broader political drama, one where the tension between global success and local struggle is constantly being amplified for electoral gain. The influence of the Indian diaspora in technology, business, and policy extends far beyond the borders of the United States. This global Indian network is a vast, interconnected web of professionals, entrepreneurs, academics, and policymakers who collaborate across continents, driving innovation and shaping markets. It represents a significant force in the modern global economy, where knowledge and capital flow seamlessly between countries. Indian professionals working in top tech companies are often part of this larger ecosystem. They maintain strong ties with India's rapidly growing tech hubs, while simultaneously influencing global technology trends. This transnational connection creates a powerful bridge between the world's largest democracy and the largest democracy in South Asia, facilitating the exchange of ideas, investment, and talent. This network has cultivated an extensive support system, from professional organizations and alumni groups to venture capitalists and startup incubators, that helps Indian talent thrive internationally. It enables Indian engineers and executives to share resources, mentor newcomers, and influence industry standards worldwide. The network's strength lies not only in numbers, but in its ability to mobilize influence across multiple sectors and geographies. For political figures who favor protectionism and nationalist policies, this global connectivity is a challenge. It transcends traditional notions of sovereignty and complicates efforts to enforce strict borders on talent and technology. The Indian diaspora's ability to operate fluidly on a global stage disrupts the idea of a closed economy focused solely on domestic actors. This interconnected network also contributes to the growing prominence of Indian origin leaders in global institutions and companies. Their presence represents a shift toward a more multipolar world where power and influence are shared across nations and cultures. The global Indian network, in this sense, symbolizes a new era of technological and economic collaboration that defies narrow nationalistic agendas. In today's interconnected world, the story of Indian talent in tech is not just about jobs or visas. It's about influence, innovation, and the shifting balance of global power. The presence of Indian professionals challenges old narratives of isolation and protectionism, showing that progress comes from collaboration beyond borders. Understanding this dynamic helps us see why certain political leaders react the way they do. But it also reminds us that the future belongs to those who embrace diversity and global connection. Thank you all for listening. I wish you the very best as we continue to navigate this complex, evolving landscape together. Good luck.